So the tank has been running for about 10 months now. We've built our way up fish population-wise to about 4 dozen fish in the tank so far, which is requiring a goodly amount of frozen fish food. I would say on an average about 10 cubes a day, maybe a little bit more if you include the flake food that's put into the tank. The algae scrubber is performing well. There appears to be no real algae that grows on the front panels of acrylic, but I am able to see that there's a goodly amount of algae beginning to grow, green algae in particular, on the rock foundation. That's where this scrub brush comes into play, as well as the timing on adding the tangs. The advantage of tangs is that they will graze on various algae in the tank. Some tangs have a beak that they pick with. Some tangs have a series of lips with a rows of fine bristle teeth, referred to as bristle-toothed tangs, that will scrape the algae off there. Of the 4 tangs we're adding today, I would put them into that bristle-tooth family. So I expect to see some results I expect to see some benefits as a result of those tangs going into the tank, because they now have a job to do. And speaking of jobs, let's get in there and clean that rock foundation.
As mentioned in part 1, this tank has been set up specifically as a fish-only system, as it contains no living corals nor invertebrates. The advantage of this type of system is that it's much more manageable than a living coral reef tank. Manageable in the sense that it can be treated with medications. Manageable in the sense that its decorations can be rearranged by rotating the corals in and out of the tank. And manageable in the sense of cleaning it out. Speaking of cleaning it out, with the coral decorations out of the tank, I can use a bristle brush to clean the green or red algae that may have grown on the rock foundation. This brush is simply from Home Depot, and its reach is enhanced by a broomstick handle. With the large amount of openly stacked rock and the many caves created, these fish are able to seek sanctuary during the brushing and cleaning process. It's this ability to find a hiding place that greatly decreases the stress and fear for the fish. As you can see, they're all hiding within the rock structure. I recall years ago, I set up a 125-gallon tank for a lady whose entire house was the minimalist theme, meaning the house had very few furniture items or decorations, including the fish tank. There was one medium group of rocks in the middle of the tank, or if I split it up, there were 2 smaller stacks of rocks with just as few coral decorations for the fish to hide within. I recall that once the coral decorations were out of the tank, there was hardly any room for the fish to find any places to hide. As I moved my arm back and forth to wipe the algae, the fish also darted back and forth to avoid my efforts. These fish found the cleaning process stressful, as they were not able to avoid the fear and confusion as a result of the tank cleaning process. Ultimately, I was never really that successful with the tank. In this tank, due to the amount of rock and hiding places, the fish don't seem to mind the cleaning process or the rearranging of their environment. This in part is one of the reasons for the success in this tank with the fish population. In addition to removing the coral decorations, brushing off the rock foundation, and providing the fish with a greater sense of security, I'm also able to more effectively remove debris that would be added to the water's nutrient level. I do this by vacuuming the gravel. This process allows me to siphon or vacuum out debris from the gravel bed at the bottom of the tank. To do so, I use a wide vacuum tube that is connected to a length of siphon tube that leads down to a 5-gallon bucket on the floor next to the aquarium stand. I've started a siphon, which is what draws the water out of the tank, as well as the debris along with it. Typically, in a coral reef tank that has a sand bed at the bottom of the tank, the sand contains various life that's been brought in by the live rock and the living corals. This life in the sand has created an ecosystem in a coral reef tank, and radically cleaning that sand bed quite possibly could disturb that ecosystem. In this fish-only system, the gravel is vacuumed on a regular basis, in this case every 2 weeks. While the gravel does become biologically active, it's not part of an overall intended ecosystem, and its regular cleaning decreases the potential of causing a filtration issue. Speaking of filtration, this tank employs a wet-dry trickle filter. Whereas a living coral reef tank uses its living rock and ecosystem for biological filtration, this fish-only tank's biological is more effective, namely due to its increased exposure to oxygen down within the bioballs of the wet-dry trickle filter. Along with the trickle filter, we've also included an algae scrubber. The scrubber enjoys the higher nutrient levels, as this is the food source for the algae that grow within the scrubber. All this, including a protein skimmer, capably handle the food and waste load for a fish-only tank this size. And once we've extracted the 30 gallons of dirty water and vacuumed the gravel free of debris, it's time to add back the new ocean water and replenish that old dirty water taken out. Whether it's a coral reef tank or a fish-only system, water changes are quite beneficial. In the reef tank, they help dilute buildups of organics and nutrients. They also replenish depleted trace and major element levels. The same benefits occur as a result in a fish-only system. Additionally, this water removal process allows me to acclimate the new fish to the variations in salinity and pH of the old water by draining some of that water into the buckets that I brought the new fish in. In either case, the issue, for me at least, is lifting up all those heavy 5-gallon jugs of water. Are you still tumbling biopellets? Tired of constantly replacing your GFO? Or trying to grow algae in your refugium? And you still have algae problems? Get real. Real filtration, that is. Algae scrubbers from Santa Monica Filtration will turn this into this by growing this weekly. 2 styles of scrubbers, the Hog and the Surf. Both are extremely easily installed and noticeably effective. You want results? Algae scrubbers are the answer. Visit santa-monica.cc.
Hi there, my name's Jim Stime and you know me as the LA Fish Guy. Well, I also wear a couple of other hats. One of them is the jellyfish tank called the Jelly Aquarium, and the third is myfishtank.com. I offer an entire line of acrylic aquariums ranging from rectangular to hexagon, flatback hex, as well as the custom curve front aquariums. There's also an entire line of stands and canopies ranging from MDF to pine to oak with a variety of different finishes available. And the website is even smart enough that you can calculate what the freight and crate charges to your location will be. That's myfishtank.com.
Reef Hobbyist magazine believes that our hobby, our fellow hobbyists, and the animals in our care are best served by the free distribution of quality information. Reef Hobbyist magazine provides hobbyists with critical husbandry information with an emphasis on marine ornamental breeding efforts. Reef Hobbyist magazine is available for free in local fish stores across the country, or you can subscribe at www.reefhobbyistmagazine.com. So after we've removed all of the coral decorations, cleaned the inside of the acrylic panels, brushed off the rock foundation, vacuumed the debris from the gravel bed, poured back in 30 gallons of new ocean water, and plugged in the circulation pump, you can see the fish comfortably are now starting to venture back out. It's now time to redecorate the tank with a clean set of corals. To most fish guys, this is the fun part. It's the artistic part. It's what I believe the bottom of the ocean looks like. Did I mention it's the fun part? This is the point where all those business trip tax write-offs to Hawaii begin to pay me back. As I mentioned, this is what I believe the bottom of the ocean looks like. When I purchased the decorative corals from the wholesaler, I was able to envision what looked good and what would fit into his tank. I was able to place all the corals onto a large table. This allowed me to pick and choose not only the shape of the corals, but their color as well. Naturally colored coral skeletons are predominantly white in color. There are a few sky blue coral choices, as well as some blood red organ pipe coral, along with those purple striped barnacles. After picking out the desired pieces, I was also able to duplicate many of my choices. This allowed me to create a second set of decorative corals for the tank. A number of those choices were intended for specific locations in the tank. For example, there's a large branching coral that sits in the upper middle portion of the rocks. There's also a wide flat table coral that looks great sitting on a flat shelf on the left side of the tank. I do need to be careful though, as repeatability could become boring. So I need to remember to change things around on occasion to create new and exciting aquascapes that continue to draw in the homeowner